baby. Happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of The Precipice of Delusion. Wow. Happy day to you, my friends. Thank you for being with us. How you feeling? You living nice? You living well? You treating yourself to a nice little breakfast sandwich? A little bacon, egg, and cheese? Maybe a little eggs Benny? Maybe a little avo toast? Perhaps you're having some dinner. Maybe a little chicken cacciatore? Maybe some sashimi, perhaps a little beef stroganoff. Why don't we? Hey guys, great to be here. Great to be alive. Thank you again for patronizing this podcast and tuning in every single week. I love you. I got a real great guest for you this week, guys. My friend Freddy Giorlando. What a stud. What a legend. God, I met this guy as one of the first people I met in New York that was associated to acting. Even though I was going to an acting school when I first came here, I started going to these like one-offs, like these like pay-to-plays where you go and you meet casting directors and you essentially pay like $50 or something like that, and you get to meet a casting director and you get to do a scene for them. And I met Freddie there, and he was just like this, just socialite that was just talking to everybody, shaking hands, smiling, being friends with everybody, buddying it up. And sure enough, he came over to me and introduced himself. And you know, he's very like, he's an East Coast dude. He's like Italian East Coaster, and you feel the camaraderie immediately. You feel the hospitality and the love right away. And he was so warm and welcoming, and just made me feel so great and grounded, and just like I was in the right place, and that like, oh, he's an actor, well, I'm an actor too, this guy's the best. And man, we kind of disconnected for a while, but I just saw him everywhere. I was seeing him, booking TV shows, and then he was parts of plays, and he was, friends with that friend that I knew, and he's just totally connected in this New York City area. Has since moved to LA and has been living out there for a while, and just like has made his rounds. Is just like a very well-rounded, creative person. He's a producer now. He's an actor. He writes. He does all sorts of really cool things. He teaches some workshops. He is just a solid guy and super talented, friendly AF, and I love him. I'm so excited that I have him here to chat with me. We dive into the meet and greet, the little meet cute of us becoming friends, and yeah, we're cruising. I'm in the process of moving right now, so I'm actually like kind of got my place in a little bit of disarray right now. I'm wearing my my little what is this? A little straw hat for my Mexico trips, my sun hat for when I go to the beach, because I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready to go to the beach. Yeah, it's hot as fuck out here, but yeah, guys, I love ya. I'm moving, so it's gonna be kind of hard to make these podcasts, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna keep doing it for you because I love you. I can't wait for you to listen to this episode, because Freddie is a legend, and I hope you gain a lot of insight and inspiration, and you feel wonderful about listening to it. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. Why don't we, huh? Great to see you.
Good to see you too, pal. How you been?
Oh, so good, man. I mean, so many, so all of the things.
Yeah.
It's up and it's down and it's right and it's left. But overall, great.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
You're
good to
doing
see
well?
you. I'm doing well, man. It's
You
been a good year. The fact that it's slow is allowing me to like really work on my patience with everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, man, it feels kind of like an extension of the pandemic almost, man, right? Like just
honestly,
since the pandemic, I feel like, since the beginning of 2020, it all kind of blends together. Like my career as an actor and as a filmmaker and as a creative has all kind of like taken a complete turn since then and has been like redirected in a real massive way and has been kind of like leaned in that direction ever since.
yeah,
Um, it doesn't feel the same since pre-pandemic for sure. You feel the same way?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think the good thing for both of us, because we create, right? Like we're consistent, and well, I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I feel like
Please do, man.
we mirror each other in a way.
Mm,
I could speak to you being consistent and always kind of, you've always found a way to keep it going, you know? And I know that that's what we're going to talk about today, but you always found a way to keep it going. And I think since the pandemic specifically, even though the industry has stopped, it never really stopped us. Because
yeah.
I think the desire to create is it burns pretty heavy in us. You know what I mean? So if anything, it probably, and you could speak to your experience. I mean, on my end, it kind of reaffirmed to me that I can't wait on the industry to hand me anything.
Hmm.
I had to continuously create a synergy and a momentum. You know, I think that's been pretty beneficial, just that mindset. And I think that the pandemic allowed me to, like, after the pandemic, post pandemic, even during the strike and all that stuff. I think I was kind of in this mindset when the strike hit that we still got to create and create some momentum regardless, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of how I've been um, processing everything and navigating through it all, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. It is. It.
Are we
It's.
live? Is this it?
But fuck yeah, dude. Whenever I just start pushing record and see what happens, man. Like I don't really have like a okay. Now we're starting now.
No, I
So
feel you.
we just go with the flow
Mhm.
and feel it out.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, I feel like you're right in that the pandemic and the strike and all of these things that have happened since 4 years ago at this point have almost felt a little bit like a launch pad in a certain way to a certain degree. My life as an artist has been expedited into a
Mm.
place kind of like fast tracked into becoming a filmmaker,
Mm.
and it felt like it was out of the frustrations and the inability to do other things. Like I couldn't do stuff and I couldn't, my agents weren't calling as if they were before anyways. Like, it's just like, I'm like, trying to, I'm waiting around for so long, for like a decade, trying to like, trying to like wait for my big break to happen. And guess what doesn't happen? My big break. And it's like, okay, like that's fine though, learning how to reconcile that reality and be like, okay, how can I manage my expectations around what's really happening? And because I'm not going anywhere, this is what I'm going to do. I think I am like learning how to have a healthy relationship with this profession, because for a long time and still, I've been a little obsessed with it. And I think
Mm.
that's where the notion of this whole podcast comes from, which is like the precipice of delusion. Like, am I delusional to think I should keep going in this? Or am I like living in a real place and thinking like this is the right move to make? Dude, more often than not, I feel definitely delusional. Like I should quit. This is crazy. Like I should go get a college degree and fucking like get my master's and be a fucking physical therapist or like a fucking veteran, who know what, anything else but this. Um And no matter what I do, I keep coming back to it. And during the pandemic, I was definitely fueled by time and space to figure out, like, okay, we're not in competition with each other anymore. Nobody's in competition. I don't feel that pressure to like do the thing that I've always needed to do. So I'm gonna ironically like put more pressure on myself to actually create from a space of like my control, my like where my intention is.
Mhm.
And it was a revelatory experience, man. I think for a lot of people, for a lot of artists. Um, and now it's put me in a space where I have like I said, kind of fast tracked myself into this new space, this new territory as an artist, where now I'm like, oh shit, like I'm really doing this. Like, I guess I got to keep doing this now, like, because it's real.
Mhm.
And it's exciting as shit, but it's also like really scary. And there's a lot of pressure put on me now, more so than there even was before when I was just like waiting for my big break to happen. And I wonder, if you're feeling that same kind of like excitement and fear, kind of like in on both sides of your spectrum.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How are you
Absolutely.
navigating it all?
Well, I want to say what you mentioned about reconciling, you know, the fact that, you know, whenever, you were dealing with, will the big break come or whatever the case may be, and then you going into the pandemic and then it fast tracking you into filmmaking. But that reconciliation, I think for me now, the space that I'm at, and it's funny because you would think, because I just recently booked my first co-star in ages.
Oh,
And
cool. Congrats, man.
thanks, pal. And that is supposed to get me,
Right.
or right? You know what I'm talking
Right.
about.
It's gonna leverage the next
It's
opportunity
gonna
for you
leverage
to
the
kind
next
of like
opportunity,
ascend.
right?
Yeah.
I don't want to buy that.
Mm.
I don't want to buy that because I've been, and I really feel like fortunate and grateful enough to, because I've been out in Los Angeles now for 7 years. 3 or 4 of those years was a pandemic and a strike. So like
Mm.
to navigate in the industry as an actor, um, professionally, or at least in like a network studio level, was non-existent, right? So I've been fortunate though enough to see and have like mentors that are older than me. I have, and peers also. I have my peers, and I have mentors that are older than me, and then I have, that are my friends, and then I have people around me that are around my age, you know, and then I have folks that are younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen, from being out here in this amount of time, I've seen, and I've people supposedly, like we call it, getting the break. I've seen people get the break, multiple folks, and um, what I've realized, and I've seen people not get their break also, or
Right.
just still work and wait for the break,
Right.
whatever that is, right? Um, but I say that I'm fortunate because I've been able to notice, because after talking with all these individuals, um, and hear their stories, that each of their paths are completely different, and
Mm-hmm.
they've all broken. Like I have a few friends that are like on TV shows, that are like leads on and regulars on shows. I have friends, and this is not like
No, of course, man. It's
me
just
like
the reality
gloating.
of, yeah,
Yeah,
it's just the nature of
this is just
living in
what
LA.
this is just
Right.
me being in it. So,
Yeah.
and this is speaking into the reconciliation of it all, and I'll get
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I have friends that are on shows. I have friends that have done movies also consistently, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's still also like, uh, for some of the folks that are consistently booking here and there, it's always like, when is the next job? And I have also folks that are on shows that just had their seasons and series renewed, right?
Yeah.
And I've realized that literally their journeys are so different and their backstories are so different. They are, you know, they're all different ages too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you can't even say, oh, they're 20-ish and they broke then, or they're like 20s, 30s, some people even 40s getting great opportunities, right? So I've been able to experience that like around me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually helped me when you say reconcile, it's actually helped me surrender to whatever should be.
Right.
You know what I mean? As far as my career trajectory or whatever the case, I can't and I can't bank or rely on the fact that I've been doing it for years
Yeah.
because everyone's road's different, you know? So all
Totally.
I could really do and what I really surrender to in your case, your reconciliation, but me really surrendering to is really the process of this whole journey and
Yeah.
really surrendering to the fact that I don't have I just don't have control over that. You know, I have my faith, you know, but I don't have
Yeah.
control over what I don't have control over of, you
Right.
know, what I don't have control of.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I can do and that has helped me to like answer to your question from the pandemic and how I kind of received that because we haven't chatted for a bit, you know,
Yeah.
since then
Yeah. For
really.
sure.
So for me, the surrendering of that, what I just mentioned, like your
Mm-hmm.
reconciliation, because I feel like we're in a similar space and it's a great space to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got into producing a lot during the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic. I caught like a I guess a break for sure.
Yeah. Well, you worked hard for it, man.
Yeah, in a sense to where I have been able to, you know, produce and be in the industry around here. You know, because I was when I got out here 7 years ago, the first few years before the pandemic, I was in the service industry, which I was pretty
Mm-hmm.
much my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, even in New York. Um, and now I've been able to be more in involved and in the industry
Mm-hmm.
um,
Full time in it, making
full
it more
time,
of like your lifestyle.
make it more of a
Yeah.
lifestyle and around it and in the business and the relationships and all that stuff. But the pandemic really broke me into producing because everything else was shut down, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, but me and my buddy, we actually went guerrilla style in the city and we produced like a doc mock that like ran the
Right.
festival circuit and I was still able to kind of like generate some momentum, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I met a few other people during the pandemic and I worked with some folks that was able that allowed me to kind of go on this producer path. And then since then, man, it's most of the time I met all my producing partners during the pandemic, believe it or not, and even coming out of the pandemic, who I still produce with to this day. And we're of the same mindset. Like we're all actually actors that produce,
Yeah.
and you know, even when it has been slow, we still have stuff that's always on the burner. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, so the pandemic definitely helped. Same thing with you. Nothing was happening, so it was just kind of inside of me to do something and like
Mm-hmm.
and create and not wait for anything because there was nothing really happening if you were to wait, you know?
Right. Yeah, man. It's interesting how like, I'm hearing a lot of what you're saying, and it's like thinking that there's some kind of formula for how we are meant to traverse this business is uh, is is just kind of ignorant to assume, because it's not the case.
Yeah.
And there is no way that we can kind of quantify like what works and what doesn't. especially as actors. And I think, you know, what you have done is, I've seen it, man, from like my peripheral, and I've been like watching you this whole time. You know, I'll I'll bring it back to push it forward, but I remember meeting you, man, out here in New York at the first time. I don't even know if you remember, but it was at this one-on-one situation. And for anybody who doesn't like know or is familiar with what that is, it's like essentially like a pay to play, like casting director workshop where you go to this event that's like takes place in this little shitty room, like in some high rise in Midtown Manhattan, and you like line up with a bunch of other actors who are paying like, you know, $75 to go and like see a casting director and like read a 1 minute like monologue or a scene or something like that, and then they get to just like collect your money and, you know, tell you that you're like not good enough or something, you know, whatever it is. And I remember seeing you there, man.
I have gotten called in for those, from those.
You're probably the exception to the rule, man. I don't know. I think there might be some other people who they work. I think they work, but like they're just, you know, you can't quantify that either.
No, you can't.
You don't know. And I remember meeting you there, man. And you know, I had done a handful of them at that point. I was pretty fresh to New York. This is probably like over 10 years ago at this point, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I was gonna say we probably
yeah,
go back at least a decade, at least
yeah, I
minimum.
think probably more. Yeah.
Yeah,
And because I've been out here for 12 years, and it was probably at the top of that first year or second year, whatever. But I had been doing quite a bit of those things, and I was getting real tired of them. Like I was just like, this sucks, man. Like, but you know, what else do you do? How else do you
you
get
gotta
yourself
do it.
out there? How
You
else
gotta
do you
throw
like,
yourself out.
yeah,
Yeah,
you got to pound the pavement. You got to like reinvest in your own career, all this stuff.
yeah.
And, you know, like it's always kind of weird because you're like, you know, like you want to feel like the cool kid in the room, and you want to be like whatever. You also, it's like you don't know how to talk to people. You're like, well, you know, everybody's there for the same reason. You don't want to be like that asshole. It's like, well, I've been on Law and Order for twice. You know, it's just like what, you don't know how to really be in those spaces.
Yeah.
And I remember you, man, just like approaching everybody and being so joyful and like cool and high energy and just like lovely, and coming up to me and just being like, "What's up, man? I'm Freddy." I was just like, "Oh, sweet, dude." Like, you know, maybe in the beginning, like first impressions is like, this guy's just trying to fucking like be cool, whatever. Probably just judging like whatever the situation was, and it became very clear very quickly that you were like full blown, genuine, like kind hearted, like well received, just like happy dude who was just like pumped to be getting chances to like be creative and act and like practice your art. And it really like affected me in that moment because, you know, even surrounding yourself with people who were in the business and going to those things, even me, man, like I was jaded. I was feeling kind of like icky about the whole experience. And you just brought this whole new light to the whole entire thing. It's just like, dude, like, who cares? Like, yeah, you know, we, I mean, you didn't say any of this stuff, but what I got from it was just like, yeah, of course we paid to be here. Like, we're here, but like, this is an opportunity. Like, this is a really cool thing that we get to do. And look, also, we get to meet each other. Like, what a wonderful thing. I was like, man, this guy is like, a network savvy son of a bee, man. Like he knows what he is doing. Whether or not you did, it was like, wow, he is so forward with like how he interacts with people. And I really like took that when I met you and was just like inspired by you right away. Like, and I was like, this guy must just like have every like the Rolodex of this whole entire city on lock, like have everybody, he knows everybody. So I was just like, oh man, I gotta like be friends with that guy. I gotta be friends with that guy. And like, you know, quickly thereafter, it was like it went from being like a resource that I was like, oh, I'm gonna utilize this guy, to being like, oh, this guy's just actually rad. This guy's just like good people who just wants to do the work and like work really hard to make it happen. And I saw your work ethic, man. I started, you know, like following you, seeing you on social media, watching what you were doing, and I was like, man, I don't know anybody else who works this hard, especially like out here in New York. And there's people who are working really hard. That's like a bold statement. And it really made me uh, excited by the prospect of like getting to know you more and like being in your orbit and learning how you do that, because for so long and continuously it has become, like, what is the formula? Okay, like I'll adopt Freddy's style and just start being like really like, like extroverted in these rooms and being cool and like trying to talk to people. And this is like, doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's just like, nah, man, like Freddy's not doing something, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like Freddy's not doing something that he's like manufacturing. Freddy's just being himself, and it's working for him. And I think it took me a while to like get comfortable with being myself here in this city, attempting to do this thing. And I just want to say that you were single-handedly like the first person that kind of showed me that I could, by just like being the example of that in yourself. And it was really a special moment for me to experience and be like, oh, I guess I can just be like that. And so I just got to thank you, man, for like for doing that thing. And also just like ask how you were able to kind of like be that throughout a time period where you probably weren't like working a lot. You probably weren't, just like you said, you were working in the service industry forever. Like, how did you maintain that level of joy and excitement and like thrill to just be a part of that world? Um, because it was infectious, but it was also like suspicious. I was like suspicious. So I was like, how does this guy have all of this good energy? He's got to be, maybe he's on drugs or something. Like, what is it, And I'm still curious because I still see you doing it. And I'm just like, how do you keep joy at the forefront of your pursuit? When, so many things get so hard, and like, what do you do to keep that alive?
Bro, I just want to say thank you. Like
Yeah, yeah, man.
every word, man. Very very kind of you, and I definitely received that. I definitely received that. And
Cool, man.
I just want to let you know, man, not to like have this blowing smoke up each other's ass contest, but
That's the only reason I started this podcast, dude.
no, but I really want to let you know also, dude, that you're, because I remember that day, and I remember that you were just being. I could tell that you were just a good dude. You know what I'm saying? And you're also talented. I remember. Was it like Bo and Misha? Was it like the ones that
Probably
right? Yeah,
that
yeah.
sounds right.
They're awesome. Yeah. I just remember you being super good, and as we got to know each other, you know, obviously you were talented, but then I really, like I said, like I really feel like we mirrored each other in a sense that we're just, authentic people, and you were always just a ground. I just remember you just like a grounded individual, and it shows in your work. It really does, you know.
Thanks, man.
So I've always admired your talent for sure, but also just the person behind the talent. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but like honestly, all I want to do, I mean, still to this day, like all I want to do is work with good people,
Me
and just I
too.
want I want to create with good people. I want to help good people. You know what I mean? I've been able to experience a little bit now to where, if as an actor, if you get hired on a project and the work environment isn't the best, okay, you be professional, you show up and you go to work. Like I said, I've been in the service industry like all my life. So like if a customer comes in and they're having a not so best day and they're projecting, I've always kind of received it and understood and just kind of worked with a smile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
hmm
when it comes to producing and creating our own work, and we have the choice on who we want to work with, it's good people first always. It's good people over the projects. It's always invested in, if anything, it's invested in people, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, still, going at it and being in the industry, one of the things that I love and that keeps me going is the fact that the people that I get to meet, the relationships that I get to build and nurture. the people that are just really good-hearted people that just really want to do the work. That's one of the things that inspires me and keeps me going. And to
Mm-hmm.
get to your, so I just want to really just give you your flowers, man, because
Thanks, man.
you've always been a solid guy, man. You've always been a good dude. You always been real, authentic, true blue. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
there's no,
Maybe we're just kindred spirits, man. Maybe we just like saw each other at the
yeah,
right time, right place, and it
and
was
it's people like you that keep me going, also, because it's like, we're putting the work in. We're good people. I celebrate your wins. All the bookings you got. Like, it makes me. It really fills me up. And
yeah,
it's like, if you could do it, I can do it, and we can continue to do it. You know what I mean?
totally, man, for sure.
I really mean that. So thank you, bro, for
Yeah,
just your
man.
friendship
Thank
and
you.
everything.
Hell
And
yeah.
to get to like your question of of being and how to be that, or whatever the case, right? Like you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's just, I think there's a few things that I've kind of, uh, I guess, reflected on, right? Being out here for 7 years and kind of being by myself a good amount of the time, to be able to kind of look back at like my upbringing and journal and all this stuff. And I think one of the things is my mother. I'm like a spitting image of my mother. She's
Mm-hmm.
very extroverted and outgoing, and she was always like the light in the room, you know. Um, and I love her to death, and she's my number one. She's like my number one biggest fan.
Cool, man.
I got a lot of that. I think I got it. I mean, I really, really honestly say this humbly. A little bit of the being part of it I got from her. I think I just inherited that, because as far back as I can literally remember, I was always like extroverted, and that's how I communicated. I was always like a performer or a clown around my
Mm-hmm.
family, around friends. Like, I've from childhood, I had a lot of energy. I just look back on that, and I'm just like, that's how I was wired. Now, taking that and just navigating the industry, and really just being, is just really not looking at all the things about. And I think a big part of it, not to like cut my own self off, but I'll get back to another part of it, is when we met, I had my son is 16. I have a 16-year-old
Wow.
child.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got a kid too, and that definitely like did something to you. I'm sure.
Major,
Must have.
100%. And I think
So how old were you when you had him?
19. I was
Wow.
19 when I had him. I was 18 when
That
I
is
found out. And when we met, I was
wild.
probably like 22 or 23. So he was probably 3 or 4 years old. So I had a little bit of just figuring out life at an early age,
Yeah.
and I had a lot of
Yeah.
shit coming at me, and I was
Jeez.
processing a lot, and I was dealing with a lot of mental health stuff too that I didn't know how to deal with at the time, but I had to
Mm-hmm.
learn. I had to learn how to deal with it at that age, just to kind of live through life. And you know, I think just that, the work that I continue to do to this day, to just be present throughout the day and really enjoy the days, um, it's helped me just being that person. I never like go into a situation and put on. Not to put on anything. I don't want to put
Right.
on anything. I really get
Yeah.
excited by. I really do get excited, and that's probably what it was to this day. I love to act and I love to perform. So I really get
Yeah.
excited about just the opportunity, honestly, just to do it,
Yeah,
and just
man.
share that with people. And I think as I've gotten older, specifically, a lot of what actually kept me going and inspired, and how I keep pushing the ball forward with a good attitude, is because I really do believe in a lifted spirit. I think, again, as I gotten older, I think my faith has something to do with it. Just trusting the process and knowing that everything's happening for us, not to us. And we have to kind of figure out how to navigate even the lulls and the bumps and the shitty
Mm-hmm.
stick, potholes in the road, or whatever the case may be. And understanding that, okay, what's the lesson to learn from it? Um, and also in that regard too, just to really enjoy the process of this whole experience and this whole journey, because I've realized that the more I lean into it instead of running away from it, especially the challenging times, because I really feel like out of all of my challenging moments and like the losses, or like what could be deemed as setbacks or whatever, like as long as I was kind of stuck in there without going too far down a spiral of self-doubt and self-pity, which is easier said than done, don't get me wrong, you know.
For sure.
um, I've always been able, once the storm has settled, because everything passes, you know.
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of it's just processing it and dealing with what's coming our way,
Yeah,
you know.
totally, man.
And I feel like it helps me continue to go with like an uplifted spirit. And I really do feel like last year, man, during the strike, I know I put up a play and I acted in it. That was like one of the best times of my life. And even before
Yeah,
and over the past couple of years, just getting to go into acting class and acting has been fulfilling and exciting. So that's
yeah.
something I didn't have in my early 20s, or like earlier
Hmm.
on, that I've adapted more now. I really just do enjoy the opportunity to perform
Yeah, well, it's because we
more.
spend so much time. Yeah, we spend so much time trying to, uh, like, again, quantify like our success or associate our success to the booking or like the actual like outcome of the result of whatever that thing might be. Like, I need to be on a TV show or I need to be in a film with Tom Hanks to feel like I have, done anything of significant value. And it's
Yeah,
just not true. Some of my favorite moments in my life I have had to pay in order to do. I'm paying to be in an ongoing scene study class, and I'm there and I'm doing work I'm seeing work, watching people's work, and I'm blown away by what people are doing, by what I'm able to do. And it's just like, nobody will ever see this. If this could translate to like TV and film, like that would be wonderful. Like if we could just put this up in the world, if people could see that, like they would see something really wonderful. But that's the thing, man. Like talent, I don't know. It's just like it's not what gets you there. Like, because I know so many incredibly talented people. I know so many like wonderfully talented human beings that are like, whoa, dude, you are incredible. And they don't have anything going for them professionally. And so it's just like, what do you got to do? How do you navigate all of that stuff? And it's so difficult. But I find too, man, that like, you said you play up and that was one of the most rewarding experiences for you. I made this movie this last year, and like, dude, I raised money for it. I paid, like, I got everybody paid. I'm the only person on that project that didn't make a dollar, but I bet you I had the most fun over every single person that was there. It wasn't about the money, man. Especially when you're making movies at that level, it's like nobody's there for the paycheck.
yeah,
You're all there for the labor of love, and like. If money wasn't an object and we could just do this thing, like, what would we be doing? And I think that's kind of what, like, maybe the pandemic and the strike really allowed us to kind of look at and say, like, oh, because it wasn't an object. I mean, we still all needed to pay for groceries and
yeah.
for the rent and all that stuff, but ultimately it was kind of just posed this question of like, where what do we want to do, like, if the world is ending, like, so to speak, like, what are we trying to really accomplish here?
Yeah.
And it's so cool to have seen your transition into everything, especially having had a kid at the age you did, man. Because typically when I think about that, I'm like, oh, uh, your life's over. Like,
No,
like,
dude, let me tell you, not to cut you
yeah,
off, but
please.
that like it triggered like your life's over was all I heard at 19, man.
Yeah, I mean, how
Which
did you navigate? How did you get through that
I,
and still maintain being an artist?
it's funny because I'm talking about um, creating a short about actually that moment
Cool.
of loosely kind of based off of my situation that hopefully other people can relate to. to where, you know, you have a kid at a young age, people say your life's over, you can't do anything. Then you wanted to go into the arts, then none of your, you know, who you thought were friends at the time in your town, because there were no actors or whatever, not really supporting that. And then how do you kind of overcome and move forward to kind of follow your dream, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when you say your life's over, yeah, everyone, like everyone around me was saying that. Especially at that time, I think the precipice of delusion, right? So I think also I was young enough. Well, here's the thing, because I think we still have, because I read this book by the rapper Russ. I don't know if you're familiar with Russ.
Huh.
Um, he wrote in one of his books, it's like you have to have some type of delusion to this,
Yeah.
because I think he says a healthy sense of delusion, and I think there can be a healthy sense of delusion, because if you're aware enough that you're being delusional in a healthier sense, as kind of like a tool to navigate society and our upbringing or whatever we were conditioned to believe or think, you kind of need to be somewhat a healthy dose of delusion to keep going in this industry, because there's no guarantees. It's you know, or I think you'd drive yourself kind of nuts and mad.
Right.
Um, but yeah, what I kind of got, how I got through that moment, which I take into like, which I still kind of do, is regardless of what was happening outside of myself, like external pressures or external things, I always kind of just tap into what I believe to be true for me and what I want to do. I know it sounds kind of selfish, but it's no the knowing of, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what is fulfilling to me. Everyone has different strokes different things that fulfill them, and I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their life. I'm not going to say what's right for one person or what's not right. I'm not here to judge or say, because everyone's got choice, so
Right.
for me,
But when you're 18, 19, dude, and people are telling you like you're throwing your life away and you're like you're so formative, you're so young, you're impressionable, man. You don't know any better. So like don't you feel like maybe like by choosing acting or by choosing art and like I'm glad, just as a reference point and like and for context, I'm so glad that you did decide to do whatever you did, whatever however
yeah,
hard it was for you.
it was
Because
very hard.
like well, because like I would assume that like making a decision to like follow an artistic path while having a child at the age of 19 would be like deemed as like very selfish and like self-absorbed and kind of like don't like that's really shitty of you like and even for you to believe in yourself and to be delusional enough to think okay I got a newborn child, I'm 19 years old and I'm about to go like embark on this like creative journey,
Yeah,
like it's absurd, man.
yeah,
And so like more power to you, but also like didn't you feel a sense of like or like shame and guilt about like that or what?
yeah. I think, well, I have to give it up to my son's mom that supported me with
Oh, cool,
with the
man.
decision.
That's amazing.
And then our parents were there for us too, which was major, because I was like 19 when I had my son Anthony, and I think she was maybe a couple years older than me. Um, and we had good, strong support systems. And
That's
then
awesome.
she supported the decision to be an actor. Um,
Wow.
Now I gotta say that e- everything else though, outside of that, everyone, even like friends that I went to high school with, that they didn't really agree with that for sure. I had a lot of people not talk to me for like years, because they thought, at the time my father owned a trucking company, so they thought that I should continue to work with my father, which I was working with my father at 19 on the truck. I never went to
Mm-hmm.
college, because I chose not to, and then also I had my
Yeah.
son, so I was like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
college.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And then it wasn't until a couple years after he was born that I decided to be an actor, after working on the truck with my father for a couple years, and
Yeah.
every day him saying, you got to figure out what you want to do with your life, you have to. And he was just, I'm the firstborn son of, I have two younger brothers, so I was his firstborn of three children. So as a father, I feel like I mean, I think we might have touched on it, me and him, but I think he was honest, obviously just looking out for me out of love, but he was also like saying like, listen, you got to get your shit together because you have a kid, which any parent in the right mind would do. And
Hmm.
I remember like even him taking me down to like local 79 demolition in the city to get a union card and to be in the union at 20 years old. And he was just like, it's funny because I'm going to see Bruce Springsteen. Shout out to the boss.
Nice.
In 5 days.
Like, oh, sweet.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah,
at
nice.
the forum out here. I'm a
Hell
big
yeah.
Bruce fan, and first time seeing him. But like the song "The River" that he has, like
Hmm. Hmm.
he talks about, when I got Mary pregnant, man, that was all she wrote. Because for my 19th birthday, I got a union card and a wedding coat. So
Oh, it
literally,
just
like
resonates.
it really resonated. And I would listen to that song on the truck with my father, and I listened to that song literally on the way to this demolition, Local 79.
Wow, man.
And he was like, you're gonna, you should do this. And all my friends were like, you should do this. You should go be in the union and be a laborer. And then I'll preface this by saying those guys are heroes because they bust their ass every day. They work hard, and I have
Of
friends that
course.
are in the
Absolutely.
union and all of that.
Yeah, they're
Um,
doing the real work.
they're
And,
doing the real work.
yeah.
And to get to that, when I went on site, I remember going up like six, like I don't know, it was like 30, 40. It was a lot of stories high, and this
Hmm.
elevator that wasn't built, it was just a union elevator. There was no door. It was just you go onto this and you go up, and it was open air, and you're up 30, 40 flights. And like I just remember being like shit in my pants, and like there's no way I'd be able to do this. Like there's no way I'd be able to do this. I literally, I wouldn't be able to do this. Like,
What a blessing in disguise, man.
it would,
You're such a fucking wuss that you like
yeah, yeah.
think something
Honestly, like
different.
I wasn't, I'm not built from that cloth. I'm not built to work with
Yeah.
my hands like that. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
built
yeah.
like that. Um, so like and like I said, um, and it's not to knock that job or my a couple of my good friends and family are still in the union. Like those guys are like hard workers, and I admire them so much because they just every day they wake up and they go to work and they work their ass off and they come home to
Yeah.
to provide for their families and everything like that. And some people, and like most of them that I've talked to, like they go and they enjoy that. They enjoy like getting out working with their hands. I was never like that, so I knew that at that age.
Mm-hmm.
So after so much time, I finally was just like to my dad, because I did plays in middle school and high school, that I was gonna be an actor. And then I went into HB Studio in the West Village, and I started on that path. And then that's even when I would get a lot of pushback those first few years, like first
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 years. Friends around my town, because I'm from Old Bridge, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
There's no actors in Old Bridge, New Jersey. There was no actors around me. I had nothing. I had no one to like conversate with about acting. Nothing. So I would drive into the city, and I would give up, because I'm still younger. My friends are in college. They're going out on Fridays. But fortunately, my mom would watch, my son on Friday night, so I could drive into the city and go to class. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like I had that support, and I'm very grateful for that. I definitely still don't take that for granted at all. I know how like lucky and blessed I am to do that. And I was like, all right, I appreciate that. I'm gonna, instead of go out and party, I'm gonna go to acting class. And I did that for every
Nice.
Friday for so many years. And I would go in, on Tuesdays for auditions after a little bit. Then after I booked vinyl in 2015 or 2016, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm. Martin Scorsese.
Martin
That's pretty
Scorsese,
cool.
which was cool. Yeah, it was cool. And also at the time, I was young enough to not know how big that credit was. I really
Yeah.
didn't know what that meant for me, honestly,
Yeah.
because I had
Just
at
a
that
cocky
time.
kid who's just like, yeah, of course I'm getting booking roles with Martin Scorsese, whatever.
It was honestly, man. I wish I had more cockiness, bro, because
Yeah, you don't seem like you do, honestly.
that confidence could have carried me in a lot more of those auditions back then. It was really the naivety of booking, and just all I wanted to do was the work when I went into the room. Like when I did auditions, like I just like still I got excited to do the work. I just wanted to do good work, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, and then when I was in that environment on set and all that stuff, I remember a buddy of mine who was a little bit older saying like, "Man, you don't know how lucky you got it, this co-star at your age and all this stuff. And I was just so naive to it. And I didn't know. I just was like, I guess this is how it's supposed to happen. You work and then you're on set with Scorsese. Like, I just didn't know because I knew
Yeah.
no one in the business. I had no mentors at that
Right.
time, going into
Yeah.
like mid 20s, I had no one like teaching me the ropes.
Right.
Um, but it was after that credit, though, after the 3-4 years of like my friends turning their backs on me a little bit, um, which I still love them to this day. I mean, now we've all grown up and all that stuff. Not all of them. I have still a handful of friends from Jersey that are my brothers to this day. But yeah, when I booked that on TV and it made sense to those around me now that holy shit, you could actually do this because where I come from in like around that town, no one ever did it besides like Bruce Springsteen 2 towns over in Freehold. No one
Mm-hmm.
like got into
Mm-hmm.
the movie TV industry. So yeah, but I'll tell you, it was definitely very, very, very. It was challenging and it was difficult because there's a lot of like nights that I wouldn't be able to, go out. My friends wouldn't call me
Oh yeah,
because
man, for
I
sure.
was acting and all. It was a lot of stuff that I had to really work through, honestly, at that age. Um, and I think that kind of lent itself to the industry I was navigating in because I was trying to grasp being a father at a young age and grasp everything that was coming at me, and it was turbulent times. Um, um, there were turbulent times, but I was able to kind of handle. So then I brought that as I was learning about myself as a person and kind of taking all that in, I carried that over into my life. I carried that
Yeah,
over into the work. I carried that over into the auditions and the workshops. And I was just happy to do whatever we came to do, whether being on set and workshops. I mean, I still carry that to this day. I just think that it's still cool that we get to wake up and like do this. You know,
absolutely, man.
it
It's
really is.
crazy. It's crazy too because, like, I don't know if you were anything like me, but after getting that first gig, professional gig, uh, for me and for a lot of other people that I have watched get their first gig, um, it kind of like shifts your attitude about yourself as like a professional artist, right? You're like, okay, now I have done this thing, now my bar is set, like now I have it. Before, you're like chasing that thing, right? You're like trying to attain that success, like that's your milestone.
Mm-hmm.
Once I get that like co-star, guest star, like role in a film, whatever it might be, like once I get that, then like I'm good. And it'll go and it'll start happening. And I think the reality is you get it and then nothing happens from it. Like maybe like you get excited, you get like but like professionally speaking, it doesn't just like shoot you out of a catapult and
It's
like
not a
make you like
guarantee.
ascend you into the stratosphere of fame and success. Hardly ever. And I think that's like this kind of expectation from young artists that they're just like, well, once I get that thing, then I'll like be able to go and like really take off. And so I wonder if you felt that way, and like how you navigated like the reality of where you were at with a relatively young child, a family to kind of like support, and like a career now that you are like trying to manage your expectations with. And were you like feeling like you had like that you were more deserving of something and like not getting it than you were, or were you like really managing your expectations in a way that was like, yeah, like I get it. I did a show and now I'm having like a, X amount of months or a year drought or whatever. Or did you just keep working straight like forward? Did you keep going? Because for me, it very much was, I did the thing and then I was like, okay, here they come. And then they didn't. And I was like, wait, what? What's going on? And it was a real kind of like kick to the nuts for me of like humble pie. It's just
Hmm.
like, no, dude, you're not as good as you like think you are. Like, and you have to work for this. So like figure out all of the space in between, like being on set and not being on set, and like find your path inside there. Maybe find some hobbies. Maybe find some like other things that you can put your energy into. I guess the blessing is that you had a kid, so you could put your energy into that. Like you have a kid that's probably coming home like, daddy, I love you, and that's probably like giving you self-esteem. Whereby like for me, I'm just like coming home to myself, or like going out to the bar and getting drunk and like drowning my sorrows in a bottle of tequila. Like there's all sorts of different ways that you go about processing that, like that initial reaction to like the reality of your own pursuits.
Mm.
And I think that first credit that you get really like changes you in a way where you're just like, okay, cool, now I'm in the game. But like you're not. And you are, but you're not. And you just have to like be real with yourself. And that's what I'm mostly curious about. Like, how have you managed to be real with yourself about all this and manage your expectations? Because you have always seemingly stayed very busy and like just kept yourself moving through it no matter what. And I'm just like, when you have the hardest times, like how do you stay with it, man? Like how do you get excited to like stick with it when you're just like, it's not even like that you get a no. One of my friends was like, it's not even like the proverbial no that you hear. It's like actually just silence. You just don't hear anything. So like, what do you do? Like what makes you like move forward in a way that keeps you satisfied and satiated and doesn't like just make you sad?
Yeah, I think a couple things that I want to touch on before answering that, and I'll
Go ahead,
keep it brief.
please. Yeah, you're good.
Um, First credit, 2015, 2016, whenever it was. Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, I was very naive at the time. So I thought that, hey, it's on and popping, which I did get a lot of auditions after that. I did see that change. I got into like almost a lot of rooms after that for like a year after before I moved to LA. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
book, but I was
Getting
getting that.
seen.
So I saw like, okay, there's more energy happening. Okay. Um I think also just for me, man, I mean, also to be honest, yeah, mid 20s, I had to get humbled by myself. I didn't show it outside. I never like was that bragging person, but
Mm-hmm.
internally I felt like ego like was getting built up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um so I had,
Because of where you were professionally before, because of where you were getting, like, did those things associate themselves to your ego?
yes, for sure. I think I
Yeah.
think I think my sense of self-worth, especially at that time for sure, when you're trying to prove yourself, like I was trying to prove at that time to like people around me, because you just heard the story, right? I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
prove that everyone that said your life was over, that it wasn't.
Yeah.
That's ego, straight up. You know what I mean? It could be used as
Yeah. Or just like a
motivation.
firm belief in yourself,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just
Well,
you didn't
well,
listen.
I have, you're right. I had the belief, right? But then also after you get that, and then you have, if there's a thought in your head of, in my opinion, ha ha, I did it. Look at
Mm-hmm.
me. That's ego. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's, and if you really
Sure.
blow that up, it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy ego. That
Mm-hmm.
thought stems from an unhealthy ego, in my opinion. We all have ego.
Sure.
It's just a matter of making sure that it's in check and healthy. It's not like you
Yeah.
can't get rid of it. But I did have that, and then, but over the years, though, these, like you said, whether it be industry related or personal, just the challenges of life, the, like I said, the pushbacks, the slow times in the industry, personal time, under really it all kind of chiseled away. You chisel away like the unhealthy ego into a space of, I mean, I know it sounds cheesy, but like you gotta, I mean, for me, what helps me is you chisel it down to like a space of gratitude, a space of being present. I think what helps this to answer your question, what helps me kind of get through the lulls or the slow periods or even some challenging shit that's happening in my life, or if that comes my way, whether it's personal or industry related, um, is just making sure that I'm staying like present and relaxed and open throughout my days. I know it's kind of like not the best, it's not like the best answer, but what I mean by that is, I make sure that I have like tools. So like I'll journal, I'll kind of journal out what I'm feeling and feeling so I could deal with it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there's also, like I said, ego doesn't go away. It's always there to like rear its head.
Yeah.
I think a lot of, well, I'll speak for myself, a lot of like suffering, if you want to call it. I don't want to get too dramatic, but let's just
No,
say
man.
whenever you feel like, hey, I'm not doing anything. So what am I worth? Because I'm not doing anything. Well,
Mm-hmm.
then you're tying your sense of self-worth to something of an achievement or an accomplishment or a result or your career, all external things that can go away like that. And I
Yeah.
think that's the trap. And understanding and realizing that and being aware of that so that you can build real confidence in yourself and real self-esteem and real, just like real joy or peace or whatever you want to call it. I think doing the work, the ongoing work of being present throughout the day and being relaxed. And I know it sounds kind of like hokey, but for me, it really like it's simple. It's actually the recipe for me is if I feel that happening inside of me, I make sure I get good sleep. I make sure I'm eating good. I make sure I get my exercises in, and then also journaling. And then also for me, there's always something to be done. So then I
Mm-hmm.
give myself something to work towards. There's always something to be done. Always.
Yeah.
Right now, to be honest, and this is not like gloating, last year I had, in 23, I had like maybe 3 projects in the film festivals. In 22, I had 5. This year,
That's awesome, man.
no projects. We just did the play in the fall going into
Mm-hmm.
winter. That was cool, but right now, no projects. So what am I doing with time? I
Yeah.
always have something to do. So like even reinvesting in, marketing materials, new headshots coming in July. I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually in the gym because I want to build muscle. And this is not, I'm going to,
No more caveats, dude.
I'm going to,
Just saying you're getting fucking jacked and tan, bro.
yeah. So like not preface, like because I've also been able to grow and experience and look at it from a business standpoint, the business itself,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
like people that are getting hired that of roles I may go out for or TV shows. Like, I could be a character actor, sure, and play a lot of things. But the roles I want to play, also, these dudes are like more well kept, they're more well defined, whatever the case may be. So I'm in the gym so I could play more roles, so I could actually
Yeah.
maybe get looked for as a cop, get a little bit more of a build, firefighter, army dude, athlete, whatever. So like that's in my head. I don't know if it's like that's like what's keeping me busy, but I also
Dude.
kind of look at it as like I believe that everything that I set out to do, like goals, I could do now. I think
Yeah.
anyone that wants to be a director, you could direct now. Anyone that
Yeah.
wants to be a writer, you could write now. You don't have
Right.
to get someone doesn't you don't have to get a studio behind you. You don't have to get representation behind you in this day and age to like say you're this. You just have to do
Mm-hmm.
it and then have something to show for it. So
Yeah.
everything that you could do now, right? So why I'm just on this gym kick talk, I'm doing this for an extended period of time. I have a certain month. I have months that I'm doing this. I have like somewhat of goals of what I want to achieve because
Yeah.
I
Hell yeah.
know when I want to play a role one day, like Jake Gyllenhaal spent a year getting
You want to
shredded to
rip your
grow
shirt
that.
off and fucking get fucking thirst
I
traps all
want
day long, baby.
no, I want to, but I want to be
Yeah,
able to,
no,
like,
sure.
Bradley Cooper and American Sniper hit the gym for so many months, put on that weight for
Yeah,
the characters, right? It really
yeah,
all boils down to really, like, honestly, like, what I'm doing out here is the acting and the craft. So,
totally, man.
just being a better individual. Now that could be, again, like, working myself out. I run Runyon Canyon, just like challenging myself every day. I think it's
Yeah,
just really the focusing on myself to get better and challenge myself to, like, raise above in just my own personal life. That's what
that's
keeps me
awesome.
occupied in the slow times. So I always
Yeah,
have something to keep myself, you know, busy, so to speak. But then I know the challenging of myself is going to ultimately um, lend itself to my life. That's what's
yeah,
been the mindset, honestly, since probably the pandemic too. I learned how to kind of challenge myself and kind of grow from the challenges in the gym, eating just better, like the discipline, like being just super disciplined, getting to bed at a decent time,
hmm,
putting my energy and time and allocating it towards my mission and my purpose, and really dialing it everything in, that if it doesn't align with my mission and my purpose or what I'm here to do, I don't have time for it. And that
yeah.
could be also looked at as maybe a little bit selfish or a little bit like
That's
imbalanced
okay.
of, like, maybe you don't have moderation in, like,
That's fine,
the
dude.
joys
That's
and
what you got to do.
yeah, but
That's where you're at.
that's kind of what keeps me going, honestly, in, like, times of low. I find something that I could look for that could be, that I could work towards, that could help me grow as an individual. Even
Yeah,
just implementing small little things of, like, reading at night and then setting a goal of a book a month.
hmm,
That little thing kind of stirs the pot a little bit, and then I could end this and land the plane with, also, I've also just, when it is slower than normal and, like, you're just dealing with life, just deal with life. Literally just
hmm.
go into the days with no expectation also, and see how what the kids say these days, lifing or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
But, like, because
Life's
you
life.
got you got to get inspired, right? So it's like filling the cup up from what's coming in and what you're experiencing, and just see how stuff can just flow. I know it sounds kind of like woo woo, whatever, meta, but, you know, um, have for me. So stuff that I do to challenge myself to get better individual, like, as a person, and then also when I'm not on that, like, mission, allow life to just happen, and
Life.
then see
Yeah,
how you can get inspired from it.
yeah,
Movies
yeah.
are a
It's
big
great.
thing. Movies inspire the shit out of me.
Yeah,
Literally, I could just watch movies
same,
that I've watched since I was 5 years old. A League of
same,
Their
man.
Own, Forrest Gump, like top teners that
Nice.
I could always throw on. It always
Yeah,
reminds me what I'm here for. So,
yeah,
and YouTube's great. Like, all these interviews that are out right now, like you could
yeah.
type in anything and get inspired by anyone.
Yeah, there's so much resource out there for so many people, man, to just like try to get inspired and to try to figure it out. And I think also like, I'm really happy for you, man. Proud of you because I think you're challenging yourself to change your point of view on like what is stressful because I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that like our lives are stressful, man, no matter what. Like we're like we everybody that's moving through this life, like being a human is a stressful experience. And so for me, I find that like putting myself in stressful situations to uh, kind of change my reference for what stress means to me, like kind of redefine stress for myself
Yeah.
by like doing things like, cold plunging or whatever it might be, working out really hard, getting like, putting myself in stressful situations so that like when I'm in like my day to day stressful situations, I've redefined them a little bit and I can kind of like reconstruct what feels stressful to me. And I'm not as stressed out about certain things. That's not to say that I'm not still stressed out, man. Like I have such a hard time with all of this stuff. It's really why I started this podcast, man, to try to like talk to people about like, how do you move through this time? How do you move, not even just this time, but just like being a human, and especially like more specifically an artist, because it's challenging, and it never doesn't get challenging. In fact, like one of a friend today who was supposed to be on canceled because and he's really coming up right now, and uh, like in a really really awesome way, and he had a real big like bomb of bad news happen for him today regarding something that I didn't even really get to know about too much, but I could assume. And he had to cancel because he was like, dude, I'm in the wrong headspace to like get on and like
For
really
sure.
talk about this stuff. And
Yeah.
100% was like, I definitely understand, man. Like, we're talking about things that are, not sexy right now. We're talking about like, hey, how do you like move through like the unsexy parts of your career, and like how do you navigate all that stuff, and how do you like stay feeling sexy when you like feel ugly as fuck, like how do you do that? And it's hard, man, and it's a vulnerable place to be. And
For sure.
but we're in it all the time, and it's not only artists, it's everybody, man. Like, we're all struggling, we're all going through our own thing. And it's like, how do we find joy? How do we find like the silver lining in all this stuff? How do we just like manage to be excited by like the fact that, damn, dude, we're alive and we chose to be artists and we're doing it. Like,
Yeah.
we're getting to like scratch a creative itch by like, you're producing movies, man. Like, you're like producing and acting in theater pieces in LA of all places. Like, bro, you're taking your like New York fucking roots and bringing them to LA and just like planting your seeds there. And I just know that like your positivity and your joy is going to blossom and like inspire so many people out there. I already know it already has, and I know it will continue to do that. And I just like, I think the world of you, man. And I like, I'm so sorry that we haven't like stayed in connection for longer, but it's just like, it's so cool to get to see my friends and my peers continuing to just like push and move forward. Cause like, I seen a lot of people too that have just kind of like, they were pushing, pushing, pushing. It just got too
Backed up.
heavy, and they were just like,
Backed
I
up.
can't do it anymore,
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
get a real estate job and like and like, I hear it all the time. Like, why did you quit? It's just like, because I wanted to make money. And it's just like, that's fair. Like, good for you. Sometimes I
100%.
envy people that were like, I'm like,
I
wow,
w-
like you got out. Like,
yeah.
congratulations.
Dude, I wish.
you know,
I wish. I honestly, man, I wish I had. I
but you
wish
can't.
I can't do it.
You can't.
I
Neither can
wish
I.
I understand finally when like actors, like when you watch like sad conversations, the Q&A with actors,
Yeah.
they a lot of them will tell the audience, listen, if you could do something else, go do it,
Do
because
it.
this is,
Yeah.
like, but if this is all you, if you could do anything else,
Yeah.
go do it.
Yeah.
If this is not what you absolutely want to do, I finally get that, because
Yeah.
I can't do anything else. And
Right.
I've been offered opportunities to make money not
Mm-hmm.
pursuing art.
Yeah.
I've got, and with no college degree, I've gotten
Mm-hmm.
people just offer me jobs, and I was, in my head I'm just like, this is pretty insane, but I was just like, I just can't do it. I just can't do it, because this is what we're here to do. And
Yeah.
I think also like for me, like success, it's changed as I continue to like move throughout life. And like success is like, I want to wake up doing what I love with the people I love, so that I could take care of the people I love. That's
Mm-hmm.
success for me. I think if I could continue to keep that in mind and move and stay aligned with that, everything will continue to unfold accordingly. And I think really, man, it's just, you're right. You just made a film. I did a play, and I think taking like joy in that. And I really feel that the success and the making it, us still doing this is making it.
We already are. We already
Like,
have.
I know it sounds, I know it's like corny and cliche, but really, like, for real, like, we just talked about people that pack it up, and it's no shade on them by any means at all. Because I see people come in and out of LA. I've been here for 7 years, so I haven't been here a long time. I've been here a decent amount of time to see people come and go within
Yeah.
1 year,
But you lived in New York too, so you get
3 years.
like you've seen both sides of it.
Yeah, so I think still, and I tell people when they come in and they ask for advice, I'm like, dude, like, listen, keeping the lights on out here
Mhm.
and sustaining and living out here, not being Brad Pitt
Yeah.
is a success. Like unless you're Brad Pitt, which I love Brad Pitt, unless you're Brad Pitt,
Come on.
come on. You gotta hustle, you gotta work, and you gotta do your thing to keep lights on. You know what I mean? And
But
just
the reality, dude, is that Brad Pitt has to hustle
has to
himself.
hustle himself. He's still gotta
Brad Pitt's
work.
hustling his ass off.
He's hustling, he's
Like,
working. Yeah. Yeah.
everybody is at every level. And that was what was really interesting to me today, because like I'm talking to people at like all sorts of different levels
Yeah.
of where they're at in this career. And everybody's different. Everybody's unique. But like, dude, the constant through line is that everybody is struggling. And like everybody is having a difficult time navigating. And in all honesty, from what I'm learning, is that like the farther you get, it actually gets harder, dude. It doesn't get easier. It's not just like all of a sudden you get to a certain level and you're like, yep, made it. Now I can just like collect my paycheck and like chill on my fucking floaty zebra in my gigantic Olympic sized swimming pool and, just get fucking my pedicures all day long from my fucking mate. It's like, no, dude, like
I don't
that's
even
not
know.
fucking
Honestly,
happening.
I don't even know if I would want that. I don't even know if that's in me. If I were to get that money, I'd invest in movies and just keep making movies.
Oh, for sure.
I think that's
Yeah,
just
for
what it
sure.
is. I feel,
Yeah.
but I definitely hear you though, and I feel
Yeah.
like
It doesn't get easier, man. It gets different.
because I met people. Here's the thing too. I met people that have and had talks with people that have gotten, and we see people just through achieving what maybe we think some of us as success of a career or whatever doesn't necessarily mean they're happy and at peace.
Yeah.
And I've had conversations and met people with plenty of money,
Mhm.
a lot of money, and they are not happy or at peace. So,
Yeah,
and I
totally.
say that, you know, wish the best for everyone. I'm not like, saying this, to, knock their situation. Being able to experience that and experience, life and have these conversations and interactions, it makes me go. It makes me go, okay, if these individuals have achieved what I want to achieve as far as a consistent career as an actor and get all these roles, whatever, and then also attain and have this money and they're not happy, I have to make sure that I'm working on the interior of myself to be at peace and be happy now so that when that does come, it will at some point. When that does come, I already have that hardwired in me from the work that I've done. And then also, obviously, to continue to do it. I mean, it never stops. And I think I'm, getting older. I realize that, it's just, I don't know if it's, I don't know everything, and that's okay. Right.
Yeah,
But I
for
know
sure.
that,
It's the best thing you'll know.
yeah, I don't know anything, but I do know that I can continue on the pursuit of being curious
Yeah.
and also the journey of continuing to work on myself so I can bring my best self to life
Yeah,
and
man.
people around me, That's like
Well,
all the happiness and the peace, and even like I still have the same enthusiasm that I did when we first met, man, because it comes from a place
oh,
of being able to do this.
yeah.
I don't think that it's tough. I feel like maybe I'm a little more calmer, you know,
Mhm.
but I'm still fucking jazzed up. And then when I get on
Yeah.
set or when I get to have an opportunity to audition or go into a workshop or perform, or especially that play, man. That play was fucking
That's the
great
best. I wish I could
because
have seen it,
I get
man.
yeah, more plays to come.
Yeah,
Just to be
right.
able to perform, man, and produce that play and know that we're going to be out there in front of people. We're going to give the people a story. They're going to come out. They're going to, forget what's going on outside. They're going to come into this
Hmm.
theater. We're going to have this like tribal communal experience, and to be a part of being a part of a whole team of bringing this story to life. Like,
Yeah.
the nights that we did and matinees, man, that's just fucking, that's the best. So
It's awesome, man.
that's like,
It's
keep it going,
it's
man.
so cool. It's so cool, Freddie, because like, I can really tell that like being an artist is not lost on you, man.
No
Like
way.
you're like really grateful to be doing it, and it's like infectious as it was the first time I met you, and you have like consistently stayed that way. I think just gotten better as, one would hope to
I
become
just want to get better
with
as an
age.
actor, bro. I appreciate you.
Same, man. And
And a
like
person.
it's only a matter of time before we get to start working together. Like we're both producing things now, we're both making things now. And like the reality is that it's like, yes, we want to just like cast all of our friends and everything that we do, but like there's a, there's parameters to what we're trying to do, but at the same time, like we do this for each other, man. We're building a community, and we planted a seed 10 years ago when we met each other at that one-on-one where we were paying like $75 to go meet Kim Misha and like try to do some lame ass fucking monologue from To Kill a Mockingbird, and like totally butchered everything, at least for me. And it's just like, man, like you move forward 10 years and here we are, and like I wonder where we're going to be 10 years from now, and I can only expect that we're going to be in an even better place and an even more understood space, still with just as much stress and delusion and like misunderstandings of our own situation at that place, but with like just as much of a like understanding of not understanding it, and a reality check of just like, this is what we have designed for ourselves. It's the bed we made. And dude, I just want to say I'm proud of you, man, for keeping it real and keeping it going. And I know you couldn't stop if you wanted to, but like
I
I
can't do it.
think, despite the ongoing pursuit, like the work that you're doing, the work that you're putting into the world, um, the joy you're cultivating through that work is just as infectious as you are as a person. And I'm just fucking proud of you, man. Like I just think the world of you, and I'm pumped that we got to spend some time chatting and getting to see each other's faces for a jiffy, because it's awesome, man. And I'm pumped for you, man, in your future, and I'm pumped to work with you. I'm pumped to do
100%.
projects with you.
Likewise, I'm proud of you
It's
too,
gonna be
brother.
awesome.
I'm proud of you too, and I know that it's an honor for me to be on the podcast. I know that everything that you do, you give 110%, and you put your all into everything. That's why it's always, whether it's a performance, and I look forward to seeing this film. I really can't wait to see it, to be honest, because I know that you put everything into it, and that's why it always comes out solid, because you're just a solid person. You can't. It's tough, man. Like you can't fake that. You just are that.
Mm.
So just know that. You know what I mean? So I'm proud
Yeah,
of you,
well,
and I'm grateful
takes
for
one to
you.
know one, my man.
Thank you, bro. I'm grateful for your friendship, and I'm grateful that you had me on here too. And I know when you say 10 years from now, I know we're going to be in a place making movies with each other, with our friends, and also being in a position to help people, because that's like a thing that drives me, and I know that everything that you do to speak on yourself, you look to give back as well. And this is what this podcast is specifically doing as well, for people that are listening in. You're giving them the experience, and you're giving them hope. You're giving them something that they can resonate with to keep them going. So
Yeah, it's just relatable stuff, man. Like it's just like,
yeah,
hey, look, at every level, we're all going through it to some capacity. So,
yeah,
have some calmness knowing that, because we're all in this together. We're none of us are alone in this experience. So, this is the community, man, and you're now a part of the Precipice of Delusion community as well, man. You're the fourth person I've had on this podcast,
Let's
so
go,
fucking hell
dude.
yeah, baby.
I look forward to coming back on too, man.
Absolutely,
Checking
dude.
in.
I'm gonna have double dippers all the time, dude. Triple dippers even.
Dude, I'll
Why
triple, I'll
not?
double, I'll dip in your sauce, man. Like, come on,
Yeah.
we're
I like
brothers.
the concept because I don't want to like it's not like to come on and like promote your things. It's more to like come on and like have a therapy session.
Dude,
you know?
honestly, man, yeah. I mean,
Like,
you got to just keep it. You got to keep it real, and everyone's going through the same shit. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And life's great at times, and life's challenging at times. It's life.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
definitely not all sunshines and rainbows. You know what I'm saying? But it's definitely not all dark times, and I think a good amount of it is perspective and
Mhm.
mindset. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, which I love what podcasts are about, and I love you having me on, I think ultimately it's the human to human connection. I
Yeah.
think continuing to keep that alive in the digital age and social media and the Zoom worlds and all that stuff, but just having a conversation can go a long way. So,
Dude,
um,
nobody does it anymore, man. I mean, unless they're on a
I
podcast,
love this.
which is honestly why. Yeah.
I love to
Yeah.
pick up the phone. I still like to pick up the
You do?
phone and have
Wow,
a
man. You're a
conversation. You know,
old school boy, dude.
it's yeah, man. It's just that nature of I want to get to know the person. It's that curiosity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, man. It's been nothing but a nice joy and a gift to chop it up with you, man. It's been great.
Yeah. Always is, man. And if you feel compelled to pick up the phone and hit me up to just like keep chatting, I'm always out open to it, man. I love chatting with you.
Heck yeah.
We'll keep it alive, my brother.
Likewise, man. Yeah, heck
Thanks for
yeah.
being on the pod, man. Fucking love you, dude.
I love you too, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. We'll talk soon, man. We'll keep our eye out for everything you're doing too.
Likewise. Yeah, I'm here to
All
help
right,
always.
brother.
You know that.
All right, man.
All right. Later, brother.
Peace.
Peace.
Well, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Oh, what do you think? Did you like that podcast episode? No. Guys, Freddy Giorlando, legend. Follow him everywhere. Go down and check out the show notes. Check him out. Also, while you're at it, give this episode and this podcast a follow. Give it a review. Give us a rating. Give us a comment. Give us a share. Give us a subscribe. Why don't you? If you haven't checked out our Patreon page, that's where you are able to help this podcast continue moving forward. We are going at it, guys. This is our 19th episode and I want to keep this going forever. I'm moving right now, and I'm not opening up, but I'm putting this podcast in a new studio space. I think I might start doing some in persons. I'm going to try to get some new gear, but everything that you contribute to the Patreon helps me be able to do that more effectively. So check us out at patreon.com/the precipice of delusion. I put up a bunch of exclusive stuff up there. There's exclusive podcasts. There are puppet shows. There are movies that I've made that aren't available anywhere else in the world. I got all sorts of really great things going up there, guys, and I'm continuing to put more things up there. It's $5 a month at the minimum. If you want to support this podcast and you want to help me grow it out, that's where you can do that. I have some shout outs to make because these are my monthly subscribers to the Patreon that I love so much. So here we go. Melissa Kennedy, Scott Scrivener, Stacy Walker, Joe Chamas, Jeremy Church, Mo Nowlin, Stephanie Travers, Laura Jower, Peggy McNeil, Heather Schroeder, Griffin Phillips, Carter Adams, Stephen Schuster, Miguel Lopez, Wayne, and Joanne Detour. Boomer Berry, Dan Olson, Perry Burton, and Jamie. Guys, thank you so much for being part of my Patreon page. Please, guys, support me. I need your help. We need to grow this thing out, and I promise I will make it worth your money and your investment. It is a very fun place to be, and I am trying to pay it forward. So get on in there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. Stay tuned for another episode next week and every week to follow. I love you guys so much. I'll see you then. Ta ta. Now that's what I'm talking about.